How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield.
Pathological optimism, and I'm sure we'll unpack that here a little bit later. But I chose to look at things through a lens of opportunity. I chose not to focus on the negative. I chose not to dwell in the negative. Chose to be grounded in reality, right? Dealing with the shit that I was now forced into of having to watch everybody around me get to pursue their dreams and still get recruited by all the schools in the country that they wanted to go to. And here's little old Jason stuck, right? Not being able to play. So I was living in that reality, but I chose to put on the lens of optimism, which fueled me to find the good in this fucked up situation. And my senior year came and went. It's a week before signing day. I'm sitting in my coach's class, no scholarships being offered to me at the time. So now I'm thinking, okay, like, what am I going to do? And in walks the head coach of the University of Hawaii. And I decide to walk up to the guy, point to the TV in the corner. I basically asked him to watch my highlight tape for 2 minutes. He watches my highlight tape, stops it, and then offers me a scholarship on the spot. And that was my introduction to the power of, like, the thinker, you know what I mean? The power of the mind when harnessed correctly. And you know, when I think of what I learned from that experience, like, that was all kind of done by myself with no guidance, no therapy, no, you know, I didn't really have access. And this isn't me making excuses, but, you know, 17 years old, living in, you know, inner city Los Angeles, didn't really have access to a lot of resources. So it was something that I guess I pulled out of myself. But when I think about what I did consciously, that was my introduction to the power of the mind. So long story short, I get to the University of Hawaii. Everything's fucking brilliant. It's beautiful in Hawaii, as you can imagine. And I'm living the dream, man. My freshman season at Hawaii, I start kick return. And after that season, I'm being basically promoted as, you know, the next superstar. I remember going through the newspaper and seeing my picture on the ticket stubs. And I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking happening. And I remember, you know, when I was like 8, Rick, I'd be in my bedroom dreaming about the process. Like, what is this process going to look like when I make it? You know what I mean? Like, when do you know? When do you know that, like, you're next up? And now I'm living it. I'm like, hold up, I'm next up, right? So my sophomore season comes, and now I'm the guy. I'm starting at receiver. I'm no longer doing kick returns. I'm starting at punt return so they could still, you know, leverage my shiftiness. And it's the first game of the season, and we're playing against USC. And USC growing up was my dream school. And they basically told me, you know, my junior year that I was too short. They weren't going to recruit me. So in my mind, this is like a movie. This is like the perfect start to a movie of mine, right? It's like, now I have to play against my dream school. And I'm going to kill these motherfuckers. Like, let's go. And we're ready to kick the ball off. The game's about to start. And the starting kick returner on my team can't find his helmet. So I'm watching everybody scramble around, screaming for this kid who can't find his helmet, and I'm standing next to my head coach. So my coach kind of looks at me and I'm him, and we kind of play this looking game. And I say, fuck it. I throw my helmet on and just run out there. Boom. So now I'm out there, and I'm like, oh shit, like, this is real. This just happened really fast. And I remember the chill bumps and the scream of the crowd, and I'm like, oh my God, like, let's go. And I kick the ball off. I get the ball. Boom, tear my ACL again. It was devastating, to say the least. You know, I had multiple family members at the game. My mom, my pops, my stepdad, not the one who almost killed my mom. All of my family members there in support of me. And I went down on the first play of the game. But because that achiever, right, that we talk about, that, you know, I can mentality, I refused to come out of the game. So I stayed in the game for the first 10 plays, caught the first pass from, rest in peace, a dear friend of mine who almost won the Heisman. His name was Colt Brennan. He just recently passed away due to a handful of things, but he wound up being a superstar quarterback. I caught his first career pass, couldn't run, so I had to lay down, and then eventually had to pull myself out of the game. And when the doctors basically did the MRI, they told me like, hey, you not only tore your ACL, but you tore your medial and lateral meniscus. But because you stayed in the game for so long, you also fractured your femur. So I wound up doing even more damage by being so fucking hard-headed. And I just remember thinking, like, if this is it, God himself is going to have to take me off this fucking field. Like, all the work that I put in to get here, like, are you kidding me? Like, how? And man, that was the start to a decade of just devastation. I went down such a rabbit hole of addiction and so much pain that just went undealt with. So much of the trauma that I went through as a kid began to surface, obviously. And I just found myself in a situation that I just repeatedly tried to get out and just could not get out of. And basically what I'm referring to is I became an opiate addict for 10 years. I became a hardcore drug addict. And, you know, it's interesting when you talk to people that like love your energy and they're meeting you, for some reason they feel the need to minimize my addiction. Like, oh, well, it couldn't have been that bad, right? You know? And I noticed that in people, even in my friends, they're like, oh, you only went to rehab because your family wanted you to go to rehab, right? And it's like, no, dude, like I was out of my fucking mind. My addiction escalated rather quickly, you know, being a normal pill popper to needles. So I was into the whole needle thing for 5 years. And I found myself in a space where if I couldn't figure this thing out, I was going to die. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If I couldn't figure this thing out, I was going to die. I wasn't going to go to jail. I was going to die. And it got to a point where I inflicted so much pain on myself, my family, my wife. I mean, my wife still deals with PTSD from my behavior at the time. Now this is years later. So I'm, you know, trying to make crazy shit that I might myself. There, you know, I had my rock bottom moment where I had to make a choice, and it started with dealing with the trauma. I had some serious shit that I needed to unpack between the abuse that I witnessed, my, you know, I don't want to make this a contest, but, you know, I watched my best friend was murdered when I was 18. So I had to go from burying him as his pallbearer to reporting to college football camp in a week. No time to process, literally buried him, put him in the ground, left his grieving parents to football camp. Boom. Didn't see a therapist, counselor, just buried it. Had to move through it. So when I say I had some serious shit that I needed to deal with, it started there. And once I started dealing with my shit and unpacking my shit, I did this with a professional. I went to therapy, and they taught me a lot about myself, how to process. It was an experience. But from there, I was armed with some tools, right, that put me in position to get some sobriety under my belt. And then from there, I got back in the gym. And, you know, what does Dion say? You look good, feel good, play good, get paid good, right? And I started doing a lot of work on myself outside of therapy, just engulfing myself in literature and reading and meditation and just understanding the subconscious and conscious mind and the psychology around building habits. Like I just started to nerd out. Like once I was able to get some sobriety under my belt, I realized that I did not want to go back. I did not want to die. At the time I had a 6-month-old little girl, right? I was married. So I made the decision to become a full-fledged learner. And now I'm at the point in my life where I don't want to say I fully figured it out, right? I'm a constant work in progress, but I have a system that I deploy every single morning. I stick to my system. And from the habits that I've cultivated, you know, over the last 7-8 years, I've been able to put myself in a position where I'm happy and trying to, you know, share my story with as many people as possible, but also coach and teach as many people as possible because I truly believe that, if I was able to get through this and get to where I am now, not from a financial standpoint or an accolade standpoint, but from an emotional standpoint, right? Like where I'm at today emotionally and spiritually, bro, like, God, like it's my purpose. Like I just want to help as many brothers and sisters as I can, man. And so we stack those shields. That's what you say, right, Rick? We gotta pull our shields together, man. And yeah, so that's kind of the cliff notes of my journey and who I am and some of the shit that I've been through, that has really brought me to this podcast. And I'm excited to be here.
That was awesome, man. You tell your story so well too. I could tell, like, one thing, can I give you a little praise real quick? I mean, I got a lot more praise for you, but one thing I really enjoy with how good you are at being a speaker is you also acknowledge the people that you're within your story. So I think it's kind of cool that you're like, listen, Rick, I'm in the middle of this team and I'm trying to do this thing. And Rick, let me tell you, I'm like, you really have a high awareness. It's really cool to watch. Like I can see the development you practice with yourself. It's really good. I got a couple questions for you because this is where you have so many amazing pieces to this story, and I'm going to start grabbing parts, and then we're going to unpack them together, like as a team. You said a couple sentences I'm going to grab. One thing you said is God himself will have to take me off this field, and I want your opinion through your journey right now to this point. What is your current opinion or definition of the word humility?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Warrior, thank you so much for being a part of the information that we have. And you're part of our story as we are a part of yours. It's very much an honor to be able to connect with each other. If you want to know more or you want to get started with working with me or working with our warriors so that you can begin your path to authenticity, strength, leadership, and accountability, this is the way. Together, we are way stronger. Now you get to choose. Do you go forward or keep doing what you've always done? If you stay where you're at, hey, click on some of the stuff and follow what it is. We got motivational stuff. We've got podcasts. We've got more things. Just subscribe and do the stuff and we'll keep you updated. But if you want to start going in, start jumping into what our programs offer and start your journey and being the hero in your own story.
That is a great question. Humility, I would say honesty, right? When I think about me, when I'm displaying like a certain level of humility, I'm being honest with myself and honest with others. I also think of authenticity. I'm being authentic to myself and presenting myself in an authentic way. And I'm also alleviated of ego. When I think of humility, I think ego is definitely tied up in there somewhere. So I'm at my best, right? When I think of my biggest state, I don't know how you phrase this the right way, but humility in its purest form is probably when your ego is not involved to some degree. So yeah, if I had to process that really fast.
How much do we operate off of our ego, though? Like, it's a tough thing because
no, are you kidding me? Especially at a time, me being an athlete, just pumped with adrenaline and fucking protein.
It's tough because even at this point, what do you think your humility level was like when you were at like this highlight? Like you said, like you're gonna have this. One thing I really agree with is that when people said, "I want to see what you can do in person." I actually highly agree with challenging competency. How do you choose who you work with? How do you choose who you want to hire? How do you choose who you want to be on your team? Like we should be always challenging competency. And they're like, I want to see what this guy can do in person. Well, what do you think your ego was at that point versus your ego after you've gone through hell?
Oh man, my ego was at an all-time high. And I think I created that person. Like I almost had to have that ego to get to that point. I call it, I had to be delusional about my abilities. Like I had to believe my abilities so much that like, I was like delusional about how not only good I wanted to be, but what I was actually capable of, because there was so much doubt placed on me that like I had to inflate my ego to a point to where no word or nothing that you say or any amount of doubt that was placed on me can stop me or make me feel like I wasn't good enough. So yeah, my ego at the time, and like I feel like there's a difference between ego and confidence, and like both were meshed together. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I've always been like a really nice, friendly guy, to, easygoing. So when I think of ego, sometimes people look at that as like, you could be a piece of shit human being, and I'm sure we can unpack that. So I don't think I was that, but I definitely was full of myself, and you couldn't tell me nothing, Rick. You couldn't tell me nothing.
I think that's a big part of it when I think about humility and people who have actually gone through hell versus people who have only been striving towards their own heaven or what they believe that they deserve. And we start getting into this thing where we start denying almost everything. And like you said, there's a lot of your main curse, and this is for a lot of us, is your main curse was routed in denial. This means you were stuck in a grieving cycle that you didn't want to admit for most of your life. So you created a fake persona that would fulfill the dreams that you want, because if I fulfill the dream, then that means all the problems go away. So I need to focus only on what I want and not what is. So I'll create this badass persona who can take on anybody. I'll create this identity that can take care of mom and solve everybody's problems. I'll be able to be the king and the rock star of the middle of the universe here. I'll be the man. Yep. I'll be the man. And it's one of those things where if you look at the makeup of this inauthentic, which is, you said, honesty, authenticity, like, well, your entire system before you had to take on this ACL injury and then go through the opioid addiction was completely the opposite of humility. My entire system was, I guess in the lack of, a more judgmental term, I guess, would be arrogance. I am the man and don't tell me otherwise. But afterwards, you're still the man, but with an open mind. You're still the man with an open heart. You're still like, I'm open now. Before I was closed. And so
that's the dangers of that misplaced identity piece, though. Mm-hmm. That's the danger behind hiding behind this identity that is inauthentic. It's part of who I was, but it wasn't all of who I was. So I created this person, I hid behind this person, and then you take that thing away from that person and what do you have, right? So you're definitely onto something.
Yeah, that's the reality check. There's a thing where I had to go through this. You had to go through this. And this is what makes us good at being able to relate to people in hell, is because you have to go there to know what it's like. But if you've never experienced it, we're just reading brochures or just checking in the books. But the reality on this one is, in order for you to have a competency in being able to relate to people who have to go through the humbling experiences of massive loss, the answers aren't found in books. They're found on the battlefield. You have to go through. And so oftentimes people will go, Jason, please, can you just tell me the answer? Can you just please tell me the way? I'm going through the denial part of being able to figure myself out, and authenticity and honesty. And I'm trying to figure that out. But I just went through this whole thing where in your moment with this ACL, you just lost what? What did you lose with this ACL? Your whole entire dream? Everything you manifested was just taken away in one moment? Your control and what you have in your control, you thought you could just power through, but you started doing more damage by just trying to body your way through that and just persevere. That caused more harm. Like you lost your purpose because your entire existence was going to be around being this thing to change my stars. You lost your identity because you are the man at this thing and that's who I am. You lost your mobility, so you can't even be as strong as you've trained to be because you can't even walk. Who are you now? And it's something I would say I'd relate to my military guys. The exact moment that you had that change, it changed everything. Just like when guys retire from the military, everything that they know, everything that they are, everything that they've existed for, every purpose they've have, everything they do is now in 1 minute different. And you've had to do the same thing too. Everything from that 1 second, that one moment, your entire system was turned upside down. and the reality of what is came smashing in. And what do people do when their reality is so fucking painful that I don't even want to look at it? I need to distract myself by feeling good in any way that will feel good, in any way possible to feel good. In which case, it makes sense that opioids is one of the options.
Can I add something really quick too?
Yeah.
Yeah, and let me add to that too. I think sometimes too, it comes across as if you instantly seek out looking to numb. And in my experience, it didn't start with my mind going, let me find something to numb the pain. What happens is you get introduced to things, and over time you go, whoa, that feels great. And because of the feeling, right, it then snowballs, and then you look up and you're like, holy fuck, I've dug a hole. So it doesn't, I say this all the time, like when you become an addict or you've realized you've quit in life, it oftentimes isn't like what it looks like in the movies where you just snap your fingers, all of a sudden you quit and now you're on Skid Row. It's over time, it's little choices that you make that put you in that position to where you look up a year or 5 years or 10 years later and you're like, holy fuck, I've been numbing. Holy shit, I've quit on myself. Look at the series of habits that I've developed or I've allowed to shed from my DNA. You know what I mean? So sorry, I just wanted to unpack that. It's like oftentimes it's not a snap of the finger thing. It's over a slow period of time and you often don't even realize it.
Oh, for sure. Don't get me started on causality, bro. We'll be here for an hour. I'm with every choice leads to another choice. And think of the one choice that you made. If you didn't make that choice, where your life would go, we'll blow our minds out of the bucket. All right. Well, let's look at it this way. You said something that I want to pull into light a little bit. You said, when I was down, I wasn't looking for numbing, but it's amazing what comes into my life when I'm in pain, how someone's like, hey, try this. Hey, try this. I got a question for you. Throughout all of the good and all of the bad, when were you not manifesting?
Well, I think the difference, let me try to unpack this and answer this the best I can. So through the good, I was very intentional about my manifestation. I was very intentional about like my thoughts and how I viewed my vision, right? I had a very clear direction in my vision. When you're going through the bad, it may not be as clear as when you're going through the good, but you're still making decisions and you're still focusing on negative and self-destructive shit. So there are two versions of manifestation, in my opinion. So to answer your question, you're manifesting on both sides. They just might look a little different.
It looks like you're always, if I am in so much distress and pain, if I'm hurting so bad and I just want to get out of pain, I just want to not hurt anymore, is that not manifesting? And is it negative or positive to not want to hurt anymore?
Well, I think it starts with positive, right? Because
it seems like
when you're in pain, you want to get out of that pain. So your body and your mind is telling you, like, we're hurting right now. Like, fix this, right? So there's a side of it that's positive, but the outcome is not so positive.
Now you're seeing why this when I'm writing, and this is the next book, I do get into how so many pieces of our coping mechanisms, our grieving cycles, the way that we decide how we're going to handle things when we're out of control, the enemies within. In this case, you had a combination on this one of denial and distraction. This one gets really, really tough because what people don't understand is denial plus distraction is the recipe for addiction. But that would mean that your entire addiction is still based on a massive loss that I can't face yet. I can't accept the reality of, in which case there's nothing to work on because I don't even want to look at it. This is why denial is, in my opinion, this is my personal belief. After writing through all of these things for the last few years, I truly believe denial is the nastiest one of all because it dresses up like your best friend. It is the one who is the Trojan horse. It's the one who says, I'm here to protect you. I'm here to keep you from harm. I'm here to make it so people love you more. I'm here to dress up this place and let's push accountability over here. Let's push authenticity over here. Let's push all the stuff that with the truth that we don't want people to know. Let's put that in here. We're going to close that door, and then we're going to decorate this place to look hot, and everyone's going to love you. And you're like, yeah,
love you.
And we'd never open this door ever because that's only hurt. And do you want to hurt? Come on, you're too smart for that. You don't want to hurt? Let's not hurt. Who wants to open the door and hurt themselves? Stupid. Let's not be stupid because we're smart. So let's never open this.
Yeah.
So
and denial also has the loudest voice in the room.
It's your best friend. I'm here early. If we were having a party, denial is there before everybody else and brought beer.
Yep.
Denial helps decorate. Like, this is where people don't understand how crafty denial is, because it has you hide all parts of yourself and suppress all parts of yourself that would ever really get you truly loved and truly accepted and truly belong. It's all hidden behind a persona, an attitude, some sort of a mask that we'll put on to disguise ourselves to be what we think other people want or think we should be. And it's all fake. It's all bullshit. Yes. And so that entire thing, this is where you can only live so long. And this is where you see people, whether it be the Joker mask or the athlete mask or the stoic mask. You see these things. Who is it? Lewis Howes writes about this stuff. I had a book. He gets into parts of it. It's not all of it, because like I've found more pieces that aren't in there, but it's a good starter point or a good map to go, damn, I'm using some of these. And you are in this world where your humility got body slammed on top of your face to make it so that you went from being all about me to have to go through hell to become one of the best leaders you could possibly be.
Yeah. Do you think there's a place, and this might be something for us to unpack together.
Let's do it.
But with all that it takes for an athlete to get to that place, right? There's so much that you have to do. Not just from a commitment standpoint, but like your body through so much. There's so much pressure mentally. It's almost like you have to create this persona in order to compete at the highest level, in order to persevere through some of the most challenging shit, in order to get coached the way some of us got coached with, extreme discipline. And, I've had some hardcore coaches in my day. So like there are all these factors. How do you not get to that place where, you know what I mean, you're driven by ego to some degree and humility? Like, that should be a conversation. That's a conversation worth having with every athlete at any level.
I think it makes perfect sense. The reality is we have to go off of the authority of the people that we trust, right? And so who are you trying to impress? Who are you trying to get approval from? Who are you trying to be there, make me proud? And this may even get into some subconscious shit where it starts getting into, was your dad around?
Yeah.
Was your dad around?
Not in my life.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a father figure in my life
until your coaches.
11.
And so coaches would be surrogate fathers inside of our subconscious. And I want to make my father proud. And if you do well, he's very happy. And if you do not well, I need to get better to make dad happy. This is your achiever part. The only way you'll get love is if you win.
The achiever.
It's tough because you have to repress your heart. You have to repress your feelings because that all gets in the way of progress. And in order for me to be a champion, I cannot be on the field crying. I need to be dominating. In order for me to get love from my father, who in this case is coach, whoever, like in order for me to get approval and acceptance and be loved, I need to be the baddest motherfucker alive. And I have to create some sort of persona that'll emulate someone who deserves love. Because if I look at who I really am, I was left, I was abandoned, I wasn't chosen, and I wasn't good enough for that motherfucker. So I need to be good enough for this one.
Yeah.
So it may be something in there.
I think my situation was a little little interesting too is because so I didn't have a father in my household until I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then my stepdad came around, who was also a coach beforehand. And he was a phenomenal father figure. I refer to him as my father today. Like, I don't even usually throw the title stepdad in there.
Mm-hmm.
But so much had already transpired in that window, right? When you think about my belief system and some of the things that were developing, right? From 3 to 11, there was already so much shit that was stacked in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't say you're wrong. I think I would need to unpack that a little bit more, but
the psychology
definitely
for that.
a component.
Most of our belief systems and our base setups are usually developed by the time we're 7. Yeah, and so like by 11 years old, by 11, you already have an entire persona he's running into. You have an entire belief system around your worthiness that is, even at a subconscious level, why does dad not want me, is there. And I'm sure you had to put this dude through hell for him to earn his stripes to even become the stepfather.
Yeah, there's a lot there for sure.
You know what
I
mean?
A lot of friction at first and a lot of just emotional pushback. Absolutely.
Had to.
You ain't my dad. I hit him with all that.
Mm-hmm.
I hit him with all that shit. You ain't my daddy.
I'm a stepdad. I get it, man. Listen, we have to work. It's maybe, if I'm lucky, 10 to 1 versus what a real dad would have. If real dad came around, he would get far more grace than the guy who's actually been there for years.
Yeah.
It's a weird game being a step parent. And so for a guy, here's another thing for him, props to him, is when he wants to be with your mom, he doesn't just choose to be with mom. He has to choose to be with you. I have to choose you as a son.
Yeah.
I don't have to. I choose to. This means all the bullshit you put that guy through, he signed up for because he loves you that much.
I'm telling you, man, you're so spot on. And he got so lucky, man. My pops is incredible. He already had 2 kids. Mm-hmm. And I have another brother, Ryan, same dad and mom. So there were 4 kids in the household, and he was phenomenal with all of us. There wasn't favoritism, discipline was the same across the board. And most importantly, over time, our relationship grew because he poured into me consistently. So yeah, major props to him. And I think he nailed it. He decided to be with my mom, but chose to be our pops.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. I think for all step parents out there, that's a big piece because a lot of step parents don't realize, both men and women, not just guys, like step moms out there too. Props. Yep. You are taking on one of the toughest and most thankless jobs in the world. And it's purely out of a love that won't be appreciated for usually
adult years.
There's like 10 years if you're lucky. Even I got 3 teenage girls here. I'm like, I can't wait for 25 when they actually go, thanks, Rick. You were really there for fucking 15 years. Maybe if I'm lucky.
Is it all girls in your household?
I have 5 girls in this house, man.
You have all girls there?
Yeah, I got 3 teenagers. Andrea's cousin, who's 23, lives here, and then Andrea herself. So it's just the only other Y chromosomes in here are canines. And so I'm like, oh, stacked deck. Listen, no matter how
stacked deck, man.
No matter how correct I am on human behavior, and so far, all jokes aside, I have a 100% success rate on calling human behavior. They're not getting it yet. That every person, I'm like, odds are this is going to be the thing. And then it is exactly the way I said it. They're teenage girls. And that means even if I'm 100% correct, I'm wrong. I haven't been wrong yet, but I'm wrong every time.
Yeah. Because as humans, we got to go through it, man. We have to do in order for us to see. You know what I mean?
My girls give me my own dose of humility. I'm like, I know the answer. And I know what you're going to do with the answer. And I'm like, this is the equivalent of saying the stove is hot. Don't touch the stove. It's going to burn the shit out of you if you touch the stove. And then they're like, yeah, we already know that. And then I'm like, okay. And then I'm here with my med kit. Who's up? It's always the oldest. She has to do it first. She's like, you're wrong. This doesn't do anything. And I'm like, okay. And then they all watch. And then they're like,
sometimes pain is the best teacher.
Yeah, and I'm like, and let's put some Silvadina on that, and Let's get some burn cream going. And you okay? I'm not okay. I'm like, it's tough. I know. It's hard. Kids. So yeah, props to your stepdad on that one. And, props to any step parents. It's a job that requires so much appreciation. And if you're with somebody who's chosen to take on your kids, don't you dare regard this as they should be lucky they get to. It is a very difficult job, and appreciate the hell out of the person who chose to take your children on, because this is not a job that people have to do. And don't say like, well, you better love my kids or else. No, taking on another person's children is a very, very taxing position. So show appreciation every day to anybody who has a step parent, or you're with somebody who's taking on your children. Love that person double today and forever. Awesome on that one.
Double.
If at the very minimum. But yeah, here's another thing too. Let's talk about collateral damage and how we give ourselves grace on that. During that time, you said my wife is still struggling through stuff. And this is something I want people to understand is, while denial will act like your best friend, denial is not free. It takes chunks of your soul out of you. It destroys you from the inside out. And there's collateral damage from you not dealing with your stuff that other people have to deal with. And again, their love gets destroyed because of our hurt. And hurt people, not even deliberately. It's just how it works. Yep. And so, like, what are some of the thoughts that you have for yourself to give yourself grace over the time where you're like, man, I wasn't trying to hurt her, but damn, I did. How would you help people through like that part of like teaching grace and forgiveness?
Yeah. For starters, when you're on the journey to make amends, right, to push through, the only way you'll get through that phase of loving yourself and accepting the fact that you've done some damage is by giving yourself grace. Like, I think about how I got to that part of my life to begin with the negativity and the spiraling, by not giving yourself grace through that and accepting the fact that what's done is done. It's almost like you're putting yourself in a position to spiral again, right? Because we love these people. I love my wife. I love my mom. I love my stepdad. And even though I've done so much damage to the relationship and I knew that I was going to have to push myself through, I had to put myself in a position to where I no longer torture myself over it. Because the first like 2 years, right, of like my road to recovery, you start remembering shit that you completely forgot about. And when you remember those things, you experience the emotions connected to those behaviors, right? You have to let it go. And for me, I was able to work through not only the emotions, but the boundaries that I had to put on myself and some of the relationships through therapy. Like, I had to do the work. And I think from doing the work and actually unpacking those emotions connected to those memories, I was able to finally fucking forgive myself, you know? Man, I get emotional talking about it right now. Rick, golly, you about to pull that beast out of me. But this is real shit, man. And I couldn't just fake myself into letting go. I couldn't just say, okay, today I'm going to give myself grace and let go. It didn't work like that for me. So, you know, through my therapy and you know, healthy conversations, I've been able to finally forgive myself for what I've done. And, you know, today, the only thing I can do is focus on the controllables. I no longer have control over any of the shit that I've done. You know, all that shit is done, man, you know, but what I can control is waking up in the morning, being a person that I could be proud of. That's not a perfect human being by any means. You know, like, I still fuck up all the time. That's my wife. She was in here right now. She can give you a laundry list of shit that probably pissed her off that I did yesterday, right? But I can say my intention, right, when I wake up in the morning is to just be the man that I can be proud of, a man of values, and focus on the things that I can control, because I can no longer control any of that shit that I did, you know, a decade ago.
Yeah, it's a good answer. It's also like, again, this is a big part I go through with, you talked about what I call the race to acceptance, but it's being able to go through your grieving or mourning system of being able to go through. And a lot of times people use denial as acceptance and it's go like, well, yeah, is what it is. You ever heard that one? Yeah, can't change it now.
Oh, yeah.
That happened. All right, whatever. Skip it. Like, all right, hey, listen, is what it is. Forgive me or not, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like, and they call that grace, but really that's denial dressed up as acceptance. This is when people know the answer, but they don't do the journey. This is where you have to go through, like you said, you have to go through bargaining. And like, if only I would have known this, and if only she would have said this, and if only I would have understood that, then this would have happened. And if only I could tell her what I really meant with her listening, and if only I could get through, like, you have to go through bargaining. You go through all these, like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't that bad, and oh, if only I have this, and we have to go through that. But what about anger? And how much are you mad at yourself? You have to go, this was all my dreams that were taken, all of my identity, my purpose, my mobility, my manhood. Oh, man. You have to go through all the anger of the injustice of all of it. Like, how much of this was fair?
I was so angry at you.
Tell me how fair
you're
this
spot
was.
On. I was angry. Good Lord. Like, I remember, like, wanting to cuss out, like, the universe and God or whatever you connect with.
Yeah.
I was mad at him or it for years. Like, why me? Why me? It could have been any other motherfucker on this planet. Why me? You know, and why me with everything? It was why me with the injury. It was why me when my friend got killed. It was why me, you know, when I didn't have, you know, a father figure in the house and I watched my mom struggle, you know, and I had some friends that I played sports with who had these mega mansions and shit. And it's like, you know, why am I going to Kmart and watching my shit get put on layaway? You know what I mean? So back in the day when it still had layaway, right? So you're spot on, and that anger manifests itself. And another thing that I want to highlight is, you know, when people say stuff like, you got to stop caring what other people think about you. It's not as easy as just saying, okay, today I'm just not going to fucking care anymore. You have to do the work and really unpack what it is, what's going on internally that's making you care. You can't just snap your fingers and go, today I'm not going to give a fuck. It's kind of like what you said. It's like, it is what it is. Well, what's done is done. It's like, yeah, all those things sound really great, but like, it's not accomplishing anything because there's no work tied to it. You know what I mean? So like, even when I think about how I have to stop. Oh, good.
It creates, I've seen a lot of people be very clever with their label system and say, is what it is, what's done is done, and all that stuff. And it may be able to work through the system of denial and bargaining, but it completely denies anger and sadness. And I've talked to a few people who are diagnosed as bipolar disorder who just aren't grieving correctly. What they're doing is they're using denial as like, is what it is. Life is what life is. No problem. That's how it goes. You either deal with it and then you die. And really what they're doing is using denial as acceptance. And so they're using denial as the answer, but they're suppressing anger and sadness, and they're not going through those. And what happens is suppression leads to expression. It blows up at some point. It volcanoes, and you either fall apart crying or you explode and destroy everybody around you. And they call it bipolar disorder. Ooh. And I'm like, hold on a second. This is just you're untrained in your grieving system. If you don't know how to mourn through things properly, you're going to become a disorder. But it's trainable. And people are going to go like, no. Listen, I've helped people beat it. I have people who had that diagnosis that once they were trained to properly grieve and go through anger and go through sadness, they no longer have this disorder. And this is where it still comes down to trained or untrained. And that's why I just want to say there, like, good for you to say, I have to go through this. I got another thing for you too, because we're going to I got a really good answer we're going towards. Here's something that I noticed that people do, but they don't know how to handle what they do. You are asking a question. Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? People ask really good questions when they're in distress. You know what they don't do very good? Answer them.
Yeah. It's easier to ask the question.
People ask the right questions all the time. They just don't take the time to answer the question. Why me? Why did you have to go through that? Why did you have to get humbled through that experience? Why did you have to understand that loss? What honor or meaning or lesson was meant to be learned? Is it something in mortality? Is it something in the fragility of life or blessings that are around you? Is it something in understanding that you are surrounded by things that are so beautiful, but you can't see them because you're in your own way? What is the meaning and honor and lesson for each loss? Why me? Well, there's a thing.
That is it. That is it. That is it though, Rick. That is it. And that's that lens. And like, I know the phrasing pathological optimism can sound like, you just not living or being based in reality. But that's what I'm saying when I use that phrase. It's the understanding or the catalyst behind adversity happening for you and not to you, and you being in that position to where you can say, why not me? Why not me? Instead of why me, why not me? Let me figure out what is in this to make me stronger, better. There's some sort of opportunity, even in the most painful shit, so one of the things that I had to do in therapy, Rick, when I got hurt the second time after my second injury, and I became the drug addict and all that. One of the things my therapist did is she forced me to sit down and basically write out all of the opportunities that I was blinded to that were presented to me because of my injury. And there was a list full of windows that I fucking missed. Just the other day, I was reminded of it because somebody was talking about the youngest offensive coordinator in the NFL. And I was like, oh my God, like there was a path there. Like when I got hurt, Rick, my coach was like, I'll keep you in school as long as you want to be in school. I'll pay for everything. I'll pay for your master's and for you to get a PhD if you want it. And you could be a graduate assistant where I could coach with the team as I'm working to get these degrees. And I didn't even hear him, man. That shit went so far over my head. So anyways, that's just one thing. But I had to write out a list, right? And just the exercise alone has forced me to view things through a certain lens. So you're so spot on. You're so spot on in what you said.
Yeah, it's tough. And this is where people are doing it wrong. This is where like they'll misinterpret your pathological optimism as Pollyannaism. They'll go like, everything's good, everything's awesome, it's fine. But that's, again, denial as acceptance, where the real answer is go through your losses, go through the pain, go through the anger, go through. And I think this is one of the things where we train with our bodies. We'll work out and you'll train to tear the muscle. You'll be sore. And it doesn't mean you have to be so sore you can't move, but you'll train to be sore. But that pain is strength. This is how we have to put ourselves through discomfort. And David Goggins says, like, visit discomfort. Like, go in deliberately and go through some pain. Like, all right, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to go through the loss. But I think this is where people have the acceptance piece mixed up, is you have to go through anger, not because there's something fucked up with you, but because it's an emotion that needs to be addressed when it comes to injustice, when it comes to unfairness, when it comes to something taken away from you, when it comes to an unmet need. It needs to be addressed. I have to accept that there's a thing there, and I got to go through, and this is where guys struggle. How much did you have to close off being sad? How much did you convert sadness into anger because that one was more acceptable? And a lot of times people will block off.
Especially when you're dealing with that masculinity.
Can't do
right?
it. Can't
What do you think about masculinity? Like that, and if that's what you were shown when you're a kid, right? You think those behaviors are the way. So instead of feeling sad, you go to anger because now that's the masculine thing to do. Oh man, our belief systems could be all jacked up.
Oh, for sure. Well, now you have to.
And I was there. I'm talking about me.
We got to shut that heart side down because it's got to go back into anger, because anger at least gives a false sense of confidence. Sadness, if I start going, that's not confident. That's definitely not going to win. But if I go, fuck everybody and fuck all of you, you're like, man, he's really telling everybody. He's making himself bigger. He's louder. He's telling everybody how it's going to be.
He's alpha.
He must know what he wants. And really, it's just a massive mask, because one of the answers that I've come up with people, especially men, especially guys who get really loud and mean, is the reality is it's a separator from us to understand that anger is how we cry. Like, anger is how men cry. And so when you see a guy who's not going to cry, but he's like, I'm really mad at everybody, and why me, and fuck you, and you're an asshole, and get the fuck away from me, and back off, motherfucker. Like, all of this stuff, you're seeing somebody who's taking all of the things that make them so sad and converting sadness into something that's so fake. But it looks tough, and real alphas don't do that shit. And if any of you are out there saying, like, Rick, Jason, I'm a motherfucking alpha, I'm gonna smash this can, I'm a alpha. You're not an alpha. Alphas build. Alphas lead. Alphas don't have to tell everybody they're alphas. Alphas don't need to be the loudest. Alphas don't need to be the meanest. Alphas don't need to do that. And so if you think that you have to pretend to be this big tough guy, you are not an alpha. You're just pretending to be one based on what you've seen, but you're not. And real alphas will look at you and say, you got a long way to go, kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so go through the things.
Absolutely.
If you think that you can't cry because you're too fucking strong, it's because you're fucking scared of your own feelings. You're an alpha, you're scared of your own feelings. How are you going to be a leader if you can't even accept your own feelings? You're no alpha.
Yeah. Especially when I think about being a leader in my household with a kid in the house. Processing feelings and understanding my emotions is, oh man, that's half the game to being a strong leader in my household and a strong partner with my wife, a strong communicator with my wife, oh man. So yeah. And the other thing too, is like that alpha shit. Like I'd like to consider myself to be an alpha, but like the most dangerous people in the room aren't any of that, The most dangerous fuckers in the room aren't the ones that are the loudest. They're the ones that are, chilling in the cut. They're confident. They know what's on their tool belt and they're ready. They're ready, but they're not looking for action.
Yeah. Even the special ops guys say the guys who walk around who are showing their guns, they're like, it's fucking nonsense. Like, don't do that. Like if you're showing your piece while you're walking around, they're like, that's nonsense. Don't put your cards on the table and act like you're a tough guy. He's like, special ops guys, like, you don't know what we have. You won't even know it's there until it's too late.
You don't know.
And so real
they're ready though.
Oh, for sure. No, there's no doubt. But there's a difference though. Are you trained or untrained? And guys who are untrained will try and, boast their abilities just so they can try and show off. Again, going all the way back to, I got to see this guy in person. Well, it's fine to test competency, but if you're going to level 10 when you only need a level 2, it shows how untrained you truly are.
Absolutely. And to the people out there listening too, there's so many resources, right? Like when you think about how you can educate yourself on all of the different topics that we're discussing right now, like for me, right, even before like I went back to therapy, like picking up a book, you know what I mean? Tapping into podcasts like this one, like there are outlets where you can condition your thinking or reprogram that subconscious mind, right? So your belief system or analytical system, whatever you want to call it, like aligns with the person that you want to be. There's so many different things that you can tap into as it pertains to this stuff.
It's tough though, because there's a balance, because there's a lot of guys preaching alpha behavior who aren't. And that makes it really difficult too. So you have to do a level of discernment because you have to go like, does this seem following or not following? Have you ever heard my story of the gorillas? When I train my other warriors, because I have hundreds of guys, like we all actually work together, and I call it the council, like the Warriors Council, where we're all alphas who do black box thinking. And have you ever heard of black box thinking? Like this is you have like how it.
No.
Okay, so when an airplane.
No, I have not.
I'll explain. It's actually kind of cool. When an airplane crashes, they take the black box, and the black box says what happened, like what went wrong with the airplane. And when the airplane gets the information, like, oh, well, these parts, they go wrong after this amount of time, or watch out, the turbines are going to have this issue, or if this were to happen, it'll send the information. They send that info to all the airports. This is now new information that everybody can now put in to make sure we can safeguard against this problem in the future. So if one plane has an issue, all planes know about it. That's black box thinking. Well, real alphas aren't they're not competing with each other. we take our black box thinking of what has worked and what has not worked. We share with each other, all ships rise, and then we go back to our packs. You lead your family. You lead your groups. You take care of your own things. That's black box thinking. So we do that as the warrior's way. All the alphas convene. We share best practices, and then we go lead our own groups. And so that's what real alphas do, is there is no competition. I don't have to be stronger or better than you, because if you and I are working together against a common goal, it does me no service to have you be my weakest link so I can be the toughest. In fact, I'd rather you be twice as strong as me. You're guarding my left. I need to make sure that side's not something I worry about. And so that's black box thinking. Now let's get into the alpha concept in like the animal kingdom. So gorillas, for example, when they were studying gorillas are a powerful animal. And it's funny with gorillas. I did a podcast on my own with this one talking about gorillas are so fucking strong, it's crazy, and they don't even lift. They don't even work out, bro. They're just that strong. And so this animal they thought was just King Konging and smashing everybody, the equivalent of chimpanzees, how they have to do like power displays and smash all their things. Like they thought like, oh man, gorilla is just the badass version of chimpanzees. Jeez, don't fuck with gorillas. Well, when they study gorillas, the silverback himself, while he is able to he'll fuck you up. He's got that fuck around and find out system in there. But they watch that most of, and I'm talking a majority, like 98% of what the silverback gorilla does is encourage and nurture and hold and keep safe. If the little gorillas all want to impress the alpha, and so they're like, look what I can do, look what I can do. And you see him going like approval. Like giving approval and building up the little guys. And you see if one of the females gets hurt, you see the silverback holding her to help comfort her so she's okay. And like the silverback, most of what this big, powerful, badass animal does is nurture and support and encourage and praise and build. Now, if anybody wants to challenge the boss, we can set the mats up and we'll tap you out. But he doesn't have to do that all day long.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to do. You want to check? You want to check? You want to check it out? You want to go? Like, he doesn't have to do that all day, because most of it is, hey, are you okay? Come here. You're going to make it through this. Most of it is nurture and build. The reason why is because he's so damn strong, he doesn't have to prove it all the time. I'll give you an example. I remember I went out to, when I was training in Vegas, I was training at Randy Couture's gym, and Martin Campman was there. He was one of the top 5 jiu-jitsu guys in the world. He was a bad dude. And like, you can't do shit against anybody like this. You can't do anything. And so it's cool because I was there right before it was his daughter's 2nd birthday. Here it is, a guy who like, there's not very many people he's going to have to roll at a Gracie level to get tapped. Like this dude is that good. But you'd think a conversation with somebody that tough would be like, hey man, you want to see how I can tap people? Hey man, you want to see an arm bar? Hey man, you want to see me do a leg lock? This dude mentions 0 things about fighting.
None of that shit.
Not going to come up at all. You know what he was pumped about? His 2-year-old daughter's birthday. We got a cake coming. There's a unicorn thing. There's a clown that's going to be there. It's my 2-year-old princess's birthday. We're doing a princess party. It's going to be awesome. He's excited about balloons more than an arm bar. And what I'm talking about is what's a real alpha? It's the guy who doesn't have to walk around puffing out his chest. It's a guy who's so confident in himself that he can build others. He can be excited about his 2-year-old daughter's birthday party. He can support and help the little guys grow. And he's not intimidated. And he's not trying to threaten. He's not trying to boast. He's not trying to knock anyone down so he can make himself better, because a real alpha builds, doesn't knock people down so he can be the best.
Man, Rick, so hearing you break down both the black box theory and then now this most recent story, it just makes me think. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to start a nonprofit in LA where I'm targeting some of these inner cities to have these kinds of conversations with the young men and even some of the young women, right? Like when I look at what happened to my friend, getting murdered due to gang violence at 18, like the concept of that alpha running rampant in these LA streets, man, like it's at the detriment of our own community. And these types of conversations, like I think young minds are capable of having conversations like this. Now, it won't be easy, but like something's got to change. And the reason I think it's so important is because you have a lot of young dudes running around these streets, right, with pistols, thinking they're alphas, thinking that that's what it looks like, right, to be a top dog. When really they've got it all backwards, man. But like that's they're mirroring, right? That's what's happening in the community. That's what they're being taught and shown. There are not enough of these types of healthy conversations, man. So that's one of the many missions that I have. But yeah, these conversations are important. And I think you broke that down beautifully, man. Good shit.
Appreciate you, man. It's a good dream too. It is an uphill battle. It may take some generations and some may be receptive, but it's going to be an uphill battle. Just like I said before, Absolutely. What was your humility level before your injury? Would you have been as receptive to somebody saying, that's not what a champion is. That's not an alpha. That's not a leader. And you're like, yeah, no. I'm the baddest motherfucker there is. I don't believe you. Like, it would have been an uphill battle for a conversation like that.
It would have. But do you know what the difference is, though? I think the exposure would have still been healthy. Even if I just had the exposure, it may not have had an immediate impact, but something, because it happens to me today, right? Like I may not wholeheartedly agree with something, but then a week or two or a month to go by and something happened and I'll come back to that thought and it's because I had access. So sometimes just planting the seed and providing access will be the stimulant, but without exposure and without access, there's nothing there. There's no fucking hope,
Listen, I'll support you. You put it together. I'll help you. I'll help support you. I think it's a beautiful dream. I think it's a beautiful dream, and so it's one of those things where by no means do I ever try to apply doubt to somebody's dream. It's just, let's see what we can do. Let's do our best and let's encourage and nurture as many as we can and let God do his thing, because I don't have control of that one. I'll just do the most I can with what I've got.
And it's tough.
Plant seeds.
Absolutely.
I think that's a cool idea.
Plant seed, the seed planter.
I think that's a cool thing. As far as there's a few other areas I can go here, we're already tapping into like how to handle things and what a leader is and being able to go through and the acceptance piece. We could go further into that, or let's tap into your strength here. And I want to go into like we've gone through. Now you have to manage denial. You have to manage your bargaining, your anger, and your depression and sadness. You have to go through all of these. I have my methods to do this, but I need to hear more about pathological optimism and how do you help people when they're going through all of the stuff to be able to understand the hope aspect of it. What is your advice?
Yeah. So I think there's like a 3-step system to me. I call it PAW, right? PAW. So the first step is perception. And you talked about it earlier, right? It's looking at the state of the situation and you can control how you perceive it. And so it starts with that perception. Perception is reality, right? It's not based in some augmented world or not living in reality. We're living in reality, but we're choosing to perceive this challenge in a very specific way. And for me, that perception is shifting from negative and going to not necessarily positive, but looking for the good. Stand away from negative and looking for the good. I think the second step, right, when you think about the A in that Paul method is action. You have to take action. Massive fucking action. Activity creates insight. Pound that into people's head. Activity creates insight. You can't just read a book. What'd you say earlier, Rick? You can't just read a book. You have to go through it. And how you go through it is through activity. Activity. You have to start doing. So perception is reality. A for activity. And then the last one, which is the W, is willpower, right? And I think when I think about pathological optimism, right, when you look for the good, it does a couple things. One is you'll find the good because you're looking for it more times than not. But when most people typically give up or they tap out due to burnout or just no hope, that optimistic outlook fuels your hope and it allows you to show up every day. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. It's because we're expecting a certain outcome, right? We're looking for that good. We're expecting a certain outcome. You show up, you tap in a little bit longer. And by hanging in there, not quitting on yourself, you typically get to the point where you find that outcome, but you're building on that willpower and perseverance. So PAW is usually what I like to speak to: perception, action, and will. And yeah, that's kind of my 3-step approach to pathological optimism and finding that outcome.
I like it. I'm going to go in. I'm going to soft pitch you this one. I think you're knock it out of the park. All right. I want to do the W. I want the willpower, perseverance. What's the difference between willpower and perseverance and motivation?
So motivation comes and goes in waves, right? Motivation comes and goes. You could watch a speaker and leave the room and be like, I'm motivated, right? And then the next day it's gone. You're back to the old habits, right? For me, what has fostered my sense of perseverance is my outlook. It's my belief system. It's me believing that if I look at this particular challenge a specific way and expect an outcome, I'm going to show up and attack every day and hang in a little longer. And because of that, I'm cultivating my sense of perseverance, hanging in there. I'm building on my perseverance. So it's more of a sustainable, I guess, approach. Motivation comes and goes. I think perseverance could be cultivated through an outlook.
I like it. Yeah, you're correct, Mundo. I was like, people are like, I need the motivation. Then Jason, I need the motivation. You're like, that's not going to stay forever. And so, yeah, you got to have that perseverance and willpower. I got another piece for that. When you're talking about perseverance and willpower, is this an equivalent that you have for a form of discipline, or is it something different?
So, yeah, for one, I think discipline is tied to it. Absolutely. I think for me, when I think about how I've managed to persevere through some of my adversities and some of my challenges, it's taken extreme level of intentionality and discipline, right? I think oftentimes we quit on ourselves right before that fucking blessing, dude, like right before, like the universe, I say you make the universe dance a little bit, right? But like the only way you can get the universe to dance is if you hang in there and persevere, you know what I mean? And when we talk about will, by not quitting, and I think behind all of that is absolutely a disciplined approach. So yeah, there's discipline connected to all of the tissues when you think about willpower and perseverance.
Agreed. Here's another thing. I'm going to piggyback off you on that one. One of my good friends, Danilo Roque, he's actually a 9-figure business owner. He works with a lot of the big names, Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart, a lot of big names. And he's out in LA area, and he's got a 9-figure business now. He came from extreme poverty in the Philippines, and he's doing very well for himself now. He had to build it from the ground up, and he says it's amazing to him how many people are climbing the mountain, and 2 steps before they would hit the success, they quit. And all they remember is the grind, and they don't know what the success feels like. But if you would have just persevered for 2 more steps, you would have hit the top. They just go right back down the mountain, and all they remember is the work. And
2 more steps.
Yeah.
And let me kind of break down Paul in action. This is what Paul looked like for me, right? So let's go back to my first injury, right? I got injured at UCLA camp, right? And all of the colleges around the country stopped recruiting me. They're fucking done. And I was heartbroken. And I remember going home and I get on my top bunk and I'm crying real tears. And I remember looking up at my light in my bedroom and I'm devastated. And the idea of quitting obviously came to my head, like, fuck it, like this is it. And in that moment, I remember my mom coming into my bedroom and she kind of banged on me a little bit. Like, so, hit with a little adversity, are we going to fucking quit? Like, is that it? Or are we going to pull, ourselves up by our bootstraps and figure this thing out? And that was the spark that kind of transitioned my mindset where I go, okay, there's got to be something in this. There has to be an opportunity here. Instead of me going to school every day with all of these coaches that were coming to the campus to recruit my teammates, instead of me showing up jealous and going, why, lucky them, poor me, you know what I mean? Oh my God, look at these opportunities for them, and being bitter, I'm going to flip my mindset and try to make the most out of every opportunity. So I started looking for these pockets of windows. My perception of the situation switched to now, right? I'm more optimistic, and I'm trying to find these pockets of opportunity. The action in that, right, is every time I see a coach come to my campus, I'm running up and I'm introducing myself, right? So when I think about the A in my PAW approach, taking massive action, instead of watching these coaches walk right by me and being bitter and jealous, I'm taking action in every opportunity I get. I'm asking for business cards. Dude, I was sending out, YouTube videos. This is back when all of the all of the highlights were on cassette tapes. You know what I mean? I'm 38, so I'm kind of aging myself a little bit, but all of there's nothing online. So I had to put my highlight tape on a cassette tape, and I'm sending them to every school in the country after I get these business cards, right? So I'm finding ways to take action, right? And my action allowed me to hold on just a little longer. It helped me cultivate a sense of hope. And when you feel that hope, it allows you to cultivate that willpower and that perseverance. So now I'm sitting in my coach's class. It's a week before signing day, and I'm in there because I just have a free period, Rick. And in comes the coach for University of Hawaii. And I told you guys this story earlier and how I sold myself into getting a scholarship. And when I think about the outlook and that PAW approach, perception, action, willpower, you combine those things and the windows of opportunities present themselves in the strangest places. But it's because you're looking for them, and it's because you're open to them, and you're not allowing the negative to destroy you or put you in a position to quit.
That's pretty awesome, man. And I like that you put that into a story to go like, do you see how I'm doing the thing? You can do the thing too.
You could do the thing. You could do the thing.
I got a funny question for you.
And really,
all right, funny one. All right, we all got paws. What kind of paw do you have? Is this like a lion paw, a wolf paw, a bear paw? Like, what's your paw? Which one is it?
Yo, that's a great fucking question, because they're very different paws. You know what I mean? I'd probably have to go with the lion paw.
You got your lion paw. I like that.
Lion paw.
I like it. Not to be confused with your lion dad. That's not the same thing. It's my lion paw, not my lion paw.
Okay, I see you with the double entendre.
I got you. Hold on.
Okay, Rick got bars over here. I like it. I see what you're doing there.
Playing with the words. All right. So in any case, this is pretty awesome, man. I really appreciate all the stuff that you got here. What questions you got, or what direction do you want to take things here? Because I got a couple of things that you said that would be kind of fun to play with if you want to go a little further.
Yeah, let's play with them. Let's unpack.
All right, you said I had to work through all this stuff in your past, and you had this doubt that was placed on you. And you're talking about, man, I had to not deal with all that stuff, all the doubt that people said I could or couldn't do, or I was able or not able to do, and I can do this. How do you help people when like they're being hit with people who are very close to them? It could be a father, a mother, a best friend, close confidant, aunt, uncle, grandfather. Doesn't matter who's going to hit them with doubt. Like, you're a little too short, Jason, or I don't know if you can take those hits, or it's a pretty stupid idea. I don't know if that's going to work. Nonprofit, is it really worth it? Like, how do you help people when like they're getting attacked with these attacks from doubt?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for me, I'm an activity guy. So like I could already tell in the conversations that we've had, like you take a lot more of a psychological approach. You've broken down activity and action a lot more to the molecular level than I have. So this is good. Like I'm a learner, right? So I pick up on all of that and I love it. But for me, the thing that busts through the door of self-doubt that comes from any voice, including your own, is action and activity. I could tell people a million different things, books. I can put them in touch with my therapist. If they don't take action, it doesn't matter. In my opinion, it doesn't matter. So it all starts with action. You have to take action. And for me, in order to produce radical change, right? Because I've had a lot of that being a small athlete. Then I had a lot of that from poor teachers who would tell me, you're going to be just like your brother. Because my brother was into some shit. They used to literally tell me, you're going to be just like your brother. You're going to be just like your brother. And what they were basically getting at is like, I won't be able to succeed at the collegiate level in the classroom, right? And I knew deep down inside, I'm a phenomenal writer. I'm not good at math and maybe science and all this other shit, but I'm a great writer. And when I apply myself, I could keep up with the best of them. I needed to take massive action to show myself and build my confidence, right? That I can do these things. But if I sat back and just listened to the noise and everything that people were saying to me, like I'm not giving myself a chance to thrive and to learn. So for me, massive action has always been the catalyst behind breaking through self-doubt, building confidence, and getting myself to an I can mentality. And today, there are a lot of things that I know I can't do, right? But it's because I haven't tried them. Like I've put myself in to feel confident enough that if I go 100% and take massive action, I'm capable of doing anything, whether it's learning, whether it's an activity. I don't give a fuck what anybody says around me. I've conditioned myself through action that if I pour into this, if I actually do this thing and stick with it, I'll get it. But it's because of my consistent approach in taking action and not allowing the words of people who aren't doers, the words of people that aren't learners manifest into something bigger, because I've battled that as well. So I hope that makes sense, man. I think that's how I would coach somebody through that. It would be fucking action cultivates a sense of confidence and an I can mentality, and it helps you block out all of the noise.
Yeah, it's one of the fighting styles that works. It's effective. It depends on two people's warrior styles, because that's body side warrior. This means like make it fucking happen. I will persevere. I will fight through. You put an obstacle in front of me, I will keep pushing until it is moved. And so it's definitely one warrior type to be able to do so. I definitely commend you because it does work. It requires a level, especially earth side warriors like your paladin types. You have to be stubborn and defiant. You tell me I can't, watch me do it. Like you've got that thing, that fire in you where you're like, you can't stop me, because if you try to, I'll just show you how foolish you were for trying. And that's a body side warrior.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that most human beings can cultivate that level of like not only mind, but discipline? Because I've seen it in so many different personality types. So in my mind, it comes down to a choice. Either you're going to do it and you're going to take action and you're going to give yourself a chance to cultivate an I can mentality so you could learn about yourself. Because we all experience the self-doubt. We all experience the voice. It's just, I feel like certain individuals have conditioned themselves into being able to push through the noise. And that, you know what I mean? So what are your thoughts around that, I guess?
You want my real answer? Because it gets kind of fun if you want to see the path. All right.
Dude, give it to me.
All right. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, this is interesting how this shows up. Let's see. I've never used this system, but I'm trying to share screen with this new thing, but it comes up as very different. Oh, it's coming up as tabs. Interesting. There we go. Found it. Okay. Oh, this is cool. It puts us on the side. And here's the thing. All right. And the map here, when you go in, here's where doubt is. Doubt is on the map. This comes out as an enemy within. How does doubt slide into your emotions and gets in your feelings? It's going to attack whatever it is you're trying to do, whatever you're motivated to do. It's going to make you feel a certain way about what it is you're doing. It goes into your belief system, which goes into how much potential you believe you have. That's where your massive action piece is. And so if you're like, I start here to give me the results that reinvigorate my belief and attitude around it, which gives me more potential to make my actions even further, and you go into this circle here. Makes perfect sense. But how do you stop it from destroying this before you can get to your belief system to get to actions? Because this asshole wants to knock you out of the game before you even start. And that's where it depends on your warrior type. You are more earth side warrior. This means stubborn, powerful, persevere. We'll take the hits for others. We'll go in first. Your front line. Well, some people, that's not their strong side. Some people are heart side warrior and they have the feelings in them first. Some people are spirit side and they have faith and they have to go in through purpose and they have to find their energy to push through. Some people are going to be more logical. And let me just tell you, some of my logic guys have a real struggle with their warrior side to persevere. They struggle because they want more information, but they're not doing the action because it's not their strong side. And so there'll be information gathering for decades. And this is analysis paralysis. Well, for those guys, we have to cut it off here before it even gets to here, before your belief system around how much potential you actually have is limited, before you even begin action. And so depending on what your warrior type is, you have to go in and fight doubt and destroy doubt before it can even destroy or mess up your action system. In which case, I have to know, well, how does it work? Just doubt by itself. What is that? Well, the definition for doubt is that doubt offers nothing and takes from you everything. So what does that mean? Well, I have a dream. You have a nonprofit, right? It doesn't matter what your warrior type is if you're a nonprofit. I want to build a dream. Well, that's a stupid idea. That'll never work. You've never done that before. Why would anybody listen to you? Out of all of these things that doubt is coming in with the attack, it doesn't matter what type you are, it'll hit you differently. And this is going to attack your motivation through how you feel about it. Well, if your heart side, this is going to break your heart. If your spirit side, it's going to knock your soul down. If your mind side, it's going to give you doubt. And let's just say mind side guys struggle with statistics. Well, statistically speaking, nonprofits they only like 99 out of 100 don't make it. Or what's the odds of you being the 1%er? You know, these statistics can be real, but also hurt. And so here I am taking all of this information in and never challenging what is the offer. Well, that'll never work, Jason. Okay, well, let's take a look then. How much potential does a person have? Well, I believe I have unlimited potential. True. Until you change how much you believe you have. If you believe, actually, I don't know if it's a good idea. It may not work. Why do you think it may not work? Well, statistically speaking, 9 out of 10 businesses don't make it, so maybe it won't work. So maybe my idea that I was motivated to, well, that doesn't feel like it may work, so it probably isn't a good idea, which means I won't really put as much potential into it, so now I have limited actions. Well, shit, we need to cut this thing off at the source then. What's the offer if you were to tap into your potential? Well, my potential would be I can create a dream to be able to help pull people out of hell. I can give kids a fucking chance again. I can teach families to stay together. I can make it so a ripple effect goes generation beyond generation. I can save many lives that would be incarcerated or destroyed by the negative actions that would come from just not being trained, and give kids a damn chance to be able to have a full life and not be miserable and spreading misery and pain onto others. That's what the potential is. Or that idea will never work. Well, the offer here is to do nothing. Well, now we're at choice. Which of these do you choose? Do you choose to be able to go with potentially something that could change your stars, bring fulfillment, and bring joy and hope to millions of lives? Or do you go with a guaranteed nothing? This is how doubt works. What's the offer? Which do you choose? Do you choose potential or do you choose a guaranteed fail?
Potential.
Seems like an obvious choice when you understand how doubt works, right? So now I understand that you're trying to come in through motivation. Well, if I understand what it is I'm trying to do and how I feel about it, when something comes in, especially from a source that I trust and love, like a father or a mother or a best friend, people will say, I don't know if that's a good idea, or stay between the lines, or I don't know if that's for you. They're going to try to attack the dream, which is going to make you feel bad, which is going to make you believe it may or may not work, which is going to limit how much potential you have, which will dictate how much action you give, which will give you results that reinvigorate your attitude or belief around doing any more. All I have to do is I have to cut it off here. If I can catch you before you get in.
How do you cut that off then? How would you then cut that off?
Just like we found, if I can catch you, then I got you. What is the offer? We need to challenge the offer. So if you said, hey, I want to, I want to lose 20 pounds. And someone's like, you can't lose 20 pounds. You've never done that before. Well, on one hand, what does the life look like if I were to achieve my goal? And you can't do that. Well, what's the offer? Well, they're actually not offering a better system. They're not offering a different diet plan. They're not offering a different workout strategy. They're not offering tips for success. They're just saying you can't. Well, then I have to choose the potential of if I work my ass off for it, or if I guarantee do nothing. Well, doubt offers nothing to take everything. So then you have to choose the potential for everything or the guaranteed aspect of nothing. And when it comes from somebody who's important to you, it feels like it's difficult to decline the offer. But the reality is the way you beat them is saying, I noticed that you offered nothing. Thank you for your offer, but I have to pass. I'm going to go with something. This means it doesn't matter if you're heart side, spirit side, mind side, or body side. My motivation, feelings, belief, and potential are still intact to be able to go in with massive action to get massive results. And so I have to make sure I address the 3 steps between or the 4 steps between to make sure it's solid when I go in. Otherwise, my belief system will be corrupted and it'll make my potential seem limited. So massive action may be 0.1% of what it would be if I didn't have that doubt looming in the background simply by understanding the offer itself is nothing. Well, I can eliminate that offer because I can decline an offer for nothing, especially if it wants to destroy my livelihood, my purpose, my ability to change or leave a dent in the universe as my legacy. I can go ahead and decline the offer for nothing. So that's how I approach it.
Makes sense.
Pretty neat, right? Now,
Yeah.
How do I?
It is. And this map is extremely detailed, man. I love this. You know how to navigate this thing too. You clearly put a lot of thought into this.
It gets pretty, I've been able to find everybody and anybody in here. Like even when I said, here's where your system was, when you were injured, this thing got kicked on really hard. This actually got kicked on before you even went into the game, is because when your friend was killed, this was kicked on. And so you were bouncing around. And what people don't understand about their grieving cycle is it'll go from denial, depression, anger, and bargaining. And you'll bounce back and forth through here until you can understand how acceptance truly works. I call it the race to acceptance, not because it's like how fast can you do it. It's because this is the finish line that people don't know. It may take an hour, it may take a month, it may take a year, it may take 5 years, but this is the finish line. And you may be in a marathon or you may be able to go to a race. Here's what I mean. Here's another version of it. I'm out of coffee. Ah, damn it. Can't believe I'm out of coffee. I just had a cup. If only I would have had a bigger cup of coffee, then I'd maybe still have some coffee. Just fuck me. I'm in the middle of a recording and I'm out of coffee and I fucking just wish I had some coffee. All right. Well, after this, I'll just make some more coffee. And so you can see, I just went from, I can't believe I don't have this. If only I had a bigger cup. This is some bullshit. What a bummer. But all right, I'll just make some after this. That's just going through my law system within seconds on something as small as coffee, or I drop my pen, or like, where's my shoes? Like, can't find my keys. Like, we have to go through all these phases all the time. So it goes from everything small like this all the way up to, I just lost my dream. My marriage just failed. I got fired today. You know, we just broke up with my girlfriend. Like, it's in everything. And we get caught in this system. Well, if you're not dealing with this stuff and learning how to go find acceptance, honor, meaning, and purpose, and what it is that you had happen, like you said, why me? Why me? Why me? If we're not answering the question, you will live in this. Living in this corrupts your feelings. All of your feelings then are open to attacks. The enemy within, for fear, excuses, doubt, distractions, now get a free pathway, because when this system is turned on, these guys get a free pass. These guys do not need to be there all the time. And this does not need to be turned on all the time. But when this is on, you're vulnerable to attack. Fear turns into your creativity, imagination system goes running wild. This is part of the bargaining system, which makes it so that you create anxiety. Excuses start to run rampant. Excuses are enablers. It makes it so I can do behavior that doesn't work for me, and it can make it so I can continue justifying my behavior. But if you ever challenge any of this behavior to find the truth, you're going to get a negative reaction because you're going to be exposing me, and fuck you for even trying. You're going to catch somebody's defense system. What is the excuses associated to? Anger. You're going to start catching somebody who's going to get pissed off. Doubt destroys motivation. It comes in through any purpose or any dream that you have. Well, doubt is also a part of the shame stack that comes from depression. So doubt with depression starts to create a manifestation for apathy. Apathy means I don't want to do anything at all. So you combine doubt plus depression, you become the definition of doubt. And remember, the definition of doubt is doubt offers nothing but takes everything. When apathy kicks in, you become nothing and it takes everything. Then you go into the one that you got stuck in, and this is this nasty bastard right here. Denial is your protector system. This is going to make it so I'm okay when I'm not okay. Well, distractions comes in through positive emotions. And this isn't just, like you said, opioids. This is going to go in through social media, drug use, drinking alcohol, eating sweets, watching a ton of porn, binge watching Netflix. Like there's a whole slew of things that are like, what makes you feel good? Heck, even getting into text message conversations is a dopamine rush. Anything to feel good and distract me. This is the magician. This is the pick a card and I'll distract you from your purpose. Well, you mix denial together with distractions. They come in through positive and they come in through protection. This is why they're the most dangerous. And if you read the Bible in any way, it's also how the devil works the most. I'll give you as much of what you want as you can handle and then more. He doesn't come in with his red Spanx and pitchfork going, give me your soul, give me your soul. He comes in and he's like, as much of what anything you want. As much as you want and more, it can all be yours. He does it with Jesus. He does it with Eve. He does it over and over again. Whatever you want, I'll give you as much as you can handle and more. And this is how it plays out. They get a free pass because with coming in through positivity and coming in through protection, it's going to be tough for you to have a defense for the person who comes and says, I want to make sure you're okay. Well, all of these things that feel good, well, how can it be bad? I believe it's good. So how can it be bad? And then it starts to corrupt your identity because you're still in your law system, and it starts to corrupt the way that you operate through life. It becomes, I am the trauma. I am the injury. I am the loss. I am the abuse. I am the abandonment. And it turns into the behaviors, the belief systems, the purpose, the way that you handle in all relationships in your life. All comes in because we don't have any defenses or awareness of how not to let these guys in or how to work through our stuff to find the acceptance, honor, and meaning for all of the why did this happen to me that happens in our lives. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, you break it. Like I said, I was struggling getting the word out, but the molecular level, you get it down to the root of it, which is pretty phenomenal.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and like
good shit.
Your system does fit in here. So it's not to say like the pause system doesn't work. No, the pause system actually works perfectly with this. It works right through this because the first tool that we train in the Warrior's Way is awareness. Well, your first tool is perception. It's the same tool. Like you have to be able to see the choice to make the choice. And if you do not see within yourself and you do not have perception around you, you will create and or manifest the reasons not to, which creates opportunity for your enemy within. Without perception, you cannot make a choice you do not understand exists. Well, this then gets into, so what are you going to do about it? This is action. And this is why I agree with you on that. Without action, you just have ideas. You need to have the action. If you have all the information, but you do nothing with it, these ideas are just ideas. But if you start doing action, ideas become dreams and movements. And then don't quit.
Action has cured my, I don't want to say cured because I'm a constant work in progress. But action has been the single most critical, pivotal thing in my life. Even when it comes to doing the work, right? Like I had to take action to go to therapy.
Right.
I had to take action you know what I mean, to be a speaker and actually get on the stage. I had to take action to even get myself to a point where I'm on this podcast, right? Like inaction leads you nowhere. But you break down all of the elements that lead to action perfectly.
It's important too. A lot of guys are looking for action right now because there's a lot of these talk about your feelings. No. And I think that you and I are aligned on this is I hear you, but we have to do something. Every single lesson that I have is something you need to practice. I don't teach things that you just think about. I teach things that require you to develop an ability. And remember, you can't have confidence without competency. And how do you develop competency? You practice. How do I get good at awareness? You practice. How do I get good at understanding, like recognizing choices and then choosing like with certainty? You go for it. You got to fucking do it. What did you say? You said activity creates insight. If you want to see what the sunset on the top of the mountain looks like, keep taking steps. But if you're waiting for somebody to tell you how beautiful the sunset on the top of the mountain is, you're going to realize very quickly that in order to have the answers that you're seeking, they're earned. They're not given. Please tell me the answer. Please tell me the answer. The answer's at the top of the fucking mountain. You got to do the next step, dude. Like, oh, can you just tell me how beautiful it is? And then when anybody has the willpower, the perseverance, and they have the discipline to be able to create the routine and structure to get to the damn top of that mountain and see the sunset, they go, thank you, Jason, for not telling me, because there's no way I would have understood it. Yeah, pretty awesome stuff, man. So
do you have that documented as like a downloadable PDF or something on your website? Is that something that you share with people?
I have it in my program, but I don't give it to people until weeks in. It's also too complicated. So I do have a training. It's called Is It a Tool or a Weapon? And it does get into the concept of it depends on how it's used. And it doesn't matter if it's everything from our fist to AI. Like, is it a tool or is it a weapon? Well, this is a very complex tool. And it's very easy for somebody to look at the love section and say, damn it, my wife is a failure at love. She's not doing this one. She's not doing this one. She's this one. She's not doing this one. It's very easy for someone to misconstrue this tool and turn it into a weapon. So I don't just give it out freely, because even if I'm talking with people who are in the psychology field, whenever I give them scenarios, it's often difficult for people to find where they truly are. It's a complex tool, and it can be, as a hammer can build, a hammer can also do demolition. A knife can, cut your food, or, you can create new tools, or you can kill, and it's no different than any tools. If you look at this thing, this thing can do amazing things, or it can pound, punch, This thing right here, you can do beautiful things with, or you can destroy someone's life. Is it a tool or is it a weapon? And this, is it a tool or is it a weapon? It depends on whose hands it's in. So I don't just give it away freely. But to people who are
that makes sense.
In the field, like I don't mind sending it to you and we can do stuff together. But do I just give it out to anyone without training? I don't, because people will misuse this and destroy people. Like you can destroy somebody with this.
Yeah, or misinformation, right? You can misguide them and fuck up, their whole belief system and how they interpret things. So that makes sense. You
can smash somebody. This is another reason too. This is why people misinterpret text messages without emojis. Socrates, Socrates didn't like when people wrote down his stuff. He didn't like when people would write it down and then take notes. Do you know why he didn't like that?
Oh, wow.
Because you already see how quickly just playing the telephone game, that if you heard me say a certain thing, you can easily misconstrue it and turn it into something else. And just two people down, it's already turned into you said something you didn't really say. He's like, I don't even want you taking notes on this. Just if you don't understand it, you don't understand it.
Yep. Simple as that.
Yeah. So I don't try to give it out. I only give it out to people who are like, all right, as long as you're not going to use this as a weapon. It's almost kind of like teaching a kid martial arts. I'm teaching you so you can protect and defend, not be a bully.
I dig it.
Yeah, so
that makes sense. So you've got my attention with that. I would love to unpack that together at some point. To be honest, I think there's a lot of complexities within that chart that I would like to understand at a deeper level, even, right? Because you're, like I said, you're getting to the root of some things that are super interesting in me and just some of the people that I work with and some of the keynotes that, you know what I mean, I go up on stage and speak to. Being able to go even deeper on some of those topics, it would be fascinating. So yeah, man, you've got my attention.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with it. Actually, I like I said, I've had some pretty big names. Anthony Jolman Jones, he was a big influence for me on this. He's written 6 psychology books. He's been doing it for over 40 years. He's in his 80s now. And I remember him and I were talking. And when I was running this through, I was like, go ahead. He's got a PhD in this stuff. I'm like, go ahead and beat this. Like, tear it apart. And he came back with a couple, like, where is trust? You know, he came back with a couple things like, where is this? Where's that? And I'm like, well, that would be in needs, and that would be in this, and that would be there. And he's like, yeah, it does seem right. Okay. And he told me, he's like, I've been doing this for 40 years. 40 years. He said, this is the best mind map I've ever seen.
The pressure test, if it can withstand the pressure test of a psychologist, you're looking good.
I've run this through a lot of people, like people who are like well-known, other TED talkers, just like yourself. I've run it through other brilliant authors, other podcasters, other people who are like, I'm very competent in this field. And I'm like, see if you can beat this. And nobody yet has beat it. Want to know something even more crazy? I'm going to give you something that's, this is something important for people understanding balance within ourselves is there are 4 types of warriors inside of each of us. And this is very important for anyone to understand. And you can break it down into 3 different ways, but you know, earth, wind, fire, water, you got one option that way, or you can break it down into mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Like it's these pieces are all there. When it comes down to we have all 4 within us, you know, and this is like, you know, mind, body, heart, soul. We have all of them. It's just sometimes we're stronger in certain ones with others. Like you're clearly stronger on mind and body side, just like I am. I can relate with you highly. But then you have to tap into spirit. You have to have heart. You have to have those. But I had to repress my heart to survive. And so some of this stuff was closed off to me, and I didn't understand what I was missing. We have all of them. And to find balance, we have to understand that we have to work through all of them. This is why this system ends up working over and over again. And this is, you know, stuff that we end up sharing when we teach. And so people are like, I want to work with Jason, or I want to work with Rick. We get deep into like, how do you use your strength and your warrior type to build the other sides? Not to say, well, I'm spiritual or religion, and so it's only prayer or it's only manifestation. You go, no, that's one part of it. But you can't do all with that. And it can't just be nose to the grindstone, go, go, go. If you got no heart, you got no purpose, and you've got no plan, it doesn't work. And it can't just be plan, because without action, nothing happens. So it can't just be plan or tactics, because without actual ability or actual practice, you don't do anything. You just gather information. And it can't just be heart, because heart is fireside. And on one hand, heart can connect, and heart can keep you safe, and heart can cook and disinfect, and heart can do beautiful things to make us closer together around the bonfire. But heart can also burn your whole house down and destroy everything in the village. So emotions are the same thing, where you have to learn how to control these abilities. Without competency, without practice, without training, all of these things turn into weapons. Are you using them for good, or do you use them for personal gain?
Yeah.
A lot of times without training, this is why we train people. It takes me 14 weeks to get people even to the point where I can start doing map training, because you have to know thyself first.
Yeah.
And if you don't know thyself, don't know thy enemy, and you don't have any experience in battle, which is why you have to know how to battle. If you haven't broken a curse, if you haven't slain a demon, if you've never faced a dragon, how are you competent enough to be able to teach others to do it? And this is why I'm with you 100%. Yep. You need to see, what was the quote that you had at the beginning of this? I wrote it down. I want to see what he can do in person. That's what it is. I want to see what he can do. I want to see. We need to challenge competency across the board. We're at an age right now where we are finding, just because somebody has a coat on that's white, just because somebody has a certification on their wall, just because somebody went to a school, doesn't mean they understand.
Or wrote a book.
Yeah, wrote a book. This is the difference between somebody who read a book about being a mechanic and somebody who grew up in the shop. This is the difference. And so challenge competency. Yep. And so you're seeing people who went and lived in hell for a decade or longer, and most of their life experienced nothing but pain, anguish, and sorrow, and have figured out the path to dig your way out of it. And go, are you one of the ones who know the way, or are you one of the ones who read the book on it, and you're telling me to go what you think it is, but you've never been there? Because I keep finding lost souls.
And you know, if you spend it long enough too, you can decipher the difference.
Yeah.
You can hear it and you know what I mean, and see it on them.
You can see it in their eyes.
Right there.
You can know when you're talking to somebody, and you see when you're telling your story, and that guy goes, I know that one. And you can see it. You're like, fuck, dude, you've been there too, haven't you? I'm like, I was 2 blocks down, man.
Right there. Same street, different block.
Yeah. Same area code.
Well, look, Rick, I'm actually on vacation in Hawaii with the family.
Yeah.
And I had a 2-hour block for this. So I'm just about at my time limit here. But man, wanted to thank you so much for having me. This is now the second time we've had a chance to interact with one another, and both conversations have been amazing. I've actually learned something new each time in communicating with you, and I hope your audience has gotten something out of me sharing my story and some of my principles that I apply to my life and my day-to-day. And hopefully this isn't the last one, man. I'd love to continue to work with you and learn from you and all of that good stuff, man.
We got a lot more road together. Speaking of being able to work together, how do they find you if people want to do this pause system? I want to work with you. I like Jason's style, his energy. He's motivating me, and I want to work with him. How do they find you? What do they got to do?
Yes. So I am on Instagram at @gethit__ Jason Ferguson. My website is JF Inspires. So J is in Jason, F is in Ferguson, inspires.com. And I am on Twitter as well, GetHit_JFerg. And then also TikTok, Jason Ferg, HHE. So I know that was a lot, but man, contact me, DM me, go to my website and reach out to me. Oh yeah. We'll get the link in the bio.
We'll put the link in the bio so you can click which one you like best.
Exactly. We'll get it all in there, but I figured I'd share it. And man, I'm ready to get to work, man. My goal is to inspire and impact as many humans on this planet as possible. And if I don't have the resource for you, I'll point you in the right direction. I don't, claim to be anything that I'm not. My goal is to help as much as I can. And I also know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. So if I'm not the guy for you, I know that I probably know the right guy for you. So let's tap in and get to work.
Together, we're always stronger. It's been an honor to have you here, brother. I really do. I really appreciate you very much. Anybody else, check out what we do. Keep tuning in. We're going to have a couple of episodes here with Jason, and we got more in the future. So let's just keep tapping in, and we'll make some more stuff. And then let's just say we can go a little bit deeper on the crazy stuff later, because I got some deep talk that'll be like, what the fuck are these two talking about? I got some stuff that they'll really like to do.
Dude, let's unpack all of that shit. Let's get to the weeds, Rick. Come on now.
This is where I live, is the weeds. Let's have fun, man. All right, brother. Enjoy your vacation. I will talk to you soon. Just text me later, and I'll catch you later, man.
Man, absolutely. Hey, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks again.
Of course. We'll see you later.
All right, man.
Click on the button, and you can become the hero in your own story. It's time to start making the choices to change. And the evolution that you're going to do begins with choosing the next step. This is the way. And together, we're always stronger.